This is their ability to calm themselves down, and we're taking that away from them. So let's adjust how we think about certain things, right? So we don't want to take away their ability to advocate for themselves. Yes, there are certain things that we need to do because it's a part of healthy aging and it benefits them. But there's certain things that it really doesn't. Like, hey, so they don't want tea in the morning. Okay, they can drink something else. That's fine. No, it's not, oh, they have to have yogurt with their medicine. Does it say that in the protocol, or is that a preference? So really just getting people to understand the differences, but allowing the client to be able to communicate and express how they're feeling.
So who are you training?
Frontline folks, yes. So adults working with adults, of course, but a lot of them, they don't have like their RBT or anything like that. Their training is in human services. So just getting them to get a better understanding of what ABA is and who can you use it with. It's really changing their thought process and how they look at behaviors and how they treat the clients that they work with. So really teaching them to use a compassionate approach and what that looks like. So it's very different from how they've been trained. So there's, the crisis management trainings that they typically do, and it focuses on prevention and things like that. But I'm really giving them the application. This is how you do it. This is what it looks like. This is why we do it. This is why you shouldn't do it. So giving them a better understanding of what are in the written plans versus here's the plan, go ahead and do it.
I'm Ben Ryman, and this is Behaviour Speak. Today on Behaviour Speak, I'm joined by Dr. Olivia Hird-Partlow for a conversation about ABA across the lifespan, with a particular focus on adults with disabilities, healthy aging, dementia, autonomy, dignity, and compassionate support. Olivia brings together experience in clinical practice, residential support, university teaching, research, and consultation through Relentless Alliance. In this episode, we talk about why ABA so often remains centered on children, what's missing when adults and aging populations are left out of the conversation, and how behavior analysts can work more collaboratively with families, residential staff, medical providers, and the people receiving support. This is a powerful conversation about quality of life, consent, aging in place, caregiver stress, and what it means to support people without taking away their independence. Hey, welcome, Dr. Hird-Partlow.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, stoked. So, Olivia, tell me a little bit about yourself, the work you do, and how you got into it all.
So I am originally Canadian. I don't think you knew that. Yes, I'm originally.
Tell me more.
So grew up in Toronto, and then my family, we all moved to Maryland. My dad was pastoring at a church in Maryland. So I stayed, my brother stayed while they moved back to Canada. So we're here. So I went to school here. I had the opportunity to do my initial training at Kennedy Krieger, and I had an amazing mentor that just introduced me to just different areas within psychology, and I fell in love with ABA. So I've been doing ABA ever since. So along my journey, I have been getting training in just different settings just to kind of figure out what my niche is. What do I really love? So it started off just working in clinics, working in the home, working in school base. I now teach at a university for a master's program. So I'm teaching 2 ABA courses with that. And now a lot of my focus, the work that I've been doing research-wise, has been with adults with autism and other intellectual disabilities.
Where are you teaching?
I'm teaching at McDaniel College. So they have a master's program in human services, and they have included 2 ABA courses. So we are in the process of looking at expanding that program and creating an ABA certificate. And this would be mainly working with adults with disabilities. So this is very different from a lot of the ABA programs that are out there, which, focuses on, working with children or working in hospitals, things like that. So we are really pushing towards just adding more courses and building out that program a little bit more.
So are you training frontline folks? Who are you training?
Frontline folks, yes. So adults working with adults, of course, but a lot of them, they don't have like their RBT or anything like that. Their training is in human services. So really introducing them to the ABA principles. What does it look like? How is it implemented? A lot of the things that they do already, it's behavioral. So now we're kind of putting a name to it. So just getting them to get a better understanding of what ABA is and who can you use it with.
Mm-hmm. And what's been the feedback? Because I know this is a real struggle for folks. But because this is something I wished I had. I wished when I ran a group home, I wished my staff had access to this kind of training. And so
they're very open to it. It's very different. It's really changing their thought process and how they look at behaviors and how they treat the clients that they work with. So really teaching them to use a compassionate approach and what that looks like. So it's very different from how they've been trained. So there's, the crisis management trainings that they typically do, and it focuses on prevention and things like that. But I'm really giving them the application. This is how you do it. This is what it looks like. This is why we do it. This is why you shouldn't do it. So giving them a better understanding of what are in the written plans versus here's the plan, go ahead and do it.
And why are these folks taking this program? Like, what's sort of motivating a frontline human services staff to come and take this course?
I think with them, it's a part of the curriculum. So I think leadership at the time really thought about there is a behavioral component that is happening with adults, and we really want staff to know why these behaviors are happening and how they should be addressed. So they were really looking at the client overall, just not at medical or if they had dementia. They were looking at all components of that individual's life and what this would look like if they had behaviors. So really just getting the staff to understand just a little bit more, being more in depth and thinking a little bit more with their thought process as it relates to behaviors versus, they hit me because they just don't like me. That may not be the case. There may be something else going on with the client. So let's dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, you might have already said this, but what kind of program is this? Like just a human services program?
It is a master's program. So in that, there's 2 ABA courses, and it's entry level. So really just talk about what behavior is, the functions of behaviors, getting them to understand how to do certain assessments that would lead them to certain target behaviors and interventions, and how to do assessments. So with that, their practicum is working with adults that live in a residential setting. So they get the hands-on practice as well with supervision. But right now, it's just the 2 ABA courses. We haven't fully launched into a completed ABA program yet. So right now, they're just getting their master's in human services.
So I didn't realize it was a master's program. So who's taking this program? Who wants a master's in human services?
It's a lot of individuals that want to work with adults. So like social services, case managers, managers who are overseeing residential homes, positions like that.
So why adults? Why have you kind of moved your focus there?
I think it's based on just my experience, just thinking about, in Maryland, with a lot of the billing insurances and things like that, services kind of stop at 21. We do have other services that are available for adults, but just thinking about the coursework and the teaching really just focuses on children. And I felt like there was just a gap that is not really talked about a lot. Yes, there's more literature really focusing on ABA services with adults. But I think for me, as I'm getting older, I just really started to think about what are my other options? Like what else is out there? Also just thinking about just my family. Have my grandparents, they're 90 and 89. And a couple weeks ago, I was able to go see them. And I was seeing just some of the things that are happening with them as they age, and really looking at the type of supports that they would need, such as, memory loss and, dementia or OCD, just cleaning things repetitively. So really just talking with the family about supports that are available for them, even though I'm not physically there. I was able to see just different signs in the house as reminders for the family, like, hey, remind them to turn off the water. Hey, remind them that they're no longer allowed to cook. So just different things like that. And it's like, wow, it seems so simple, but sometimes we forget that, hey, there's other vulnerable populations out there that still need the support. So I really wanted to focus my research and my services that I'm providing to that population.
And so when people hear that you work in behavioral gerontology, what do you usually say first to help them understand what you're doing?
I really just explained to them that we really want to support the quality of life with individuals and what that looks like as people age. So just really talking about, things that they might see with adults, like they're refusing to do something, not realizing they're in actual pain, or it's a way of them communicating and we may not be understanding what's happening. So it's no different from working with children, just getting people to understand behavior across the lifespan. Working with adults, the aspect of aging looks very different, changes their ability. One of the things I would always say when working with kids is I'm working myself out of a job, right? I'm giving the families the skills that they need so I can fade out completely. With adults, it's not quite the same. I find myself that, I'm not fading myself out of this. I feel like I'm pushing in a lot more because when you age, there's so many life changes that occur that may look different, right? So different interventions may require more support or less support. So really talking about, the differences between the children, middle age, and the elderly. What does that look like as it relates to supports and how we address behavior?
That's gotta be hard pushing yourself in,
It
because
is.
these folks don't want you there. These
No.
folks want to do everything. They've lived a whole long life of doing things by themselves.
Yeah.
What's that like?
They love their independence, right? They love their control. They love their ability to have choice. And then here I come in and it's like, wait, you're taking away my independence. That's not what it is. It's more of independence. We're really looking at how do we work together so you can maintain your independence. So really coming from that aspect of I'm here to help, not to take away.
What do you think's missing from how aging is usually discussed?
I think what's missing is when it comes to ABA, just really looking at humanity in general. And I think a lot of the courses that people take is focused on children. It's centered around children. It's centered around autism, right?
Yeah.
As we age, not everybody has autism, but there's other life challenges that occur with aging where ABA is applied. So really thinking about autonomy and consent, I feel like that's missing a lot when we talk about things like that and how aging is complex. Thinking about grief as changes happen, medication issues, identity changes, right? We all go through life. In my 20s, I thought I was going to do one thing. In my 30s, reality hit like, yeah, what were you thinking? And as you get older, it's like, okay, your priorities change a little bit. So thinking about that with adults, it looks very, very different and being open to those changes and working with them.
ABA, like you said, ABA, it's so closely associated with autism, with children. What do you think we're our field is losing out on when we don't kind of embrace the lifespan perspective?
I think it is how we are disseminating the information. I think it is social media. I love social media. However, there are times where it's really focused on the children and not really looking at other areas of it, right? You have OBM as well. Weren't we talking a lot about that in social media? So just thinking about having more people within the field talk about it more. It seems like a very, very small group. So I feel like it's going to take some time. I think it's introducing it to more graduate programs versus just having one course about it. Similar to, like, I know when I went to school with my master's, it was just one course in OBM where it could have been more. So now they actually have programs that focus on OBM. Where right now, what my team is trying to do is really focus on an ABA program that really focuses on working with adults. So I think it's going to take some time as it relates to just sharing that information versus small pockets of it, but being more broad with what that would look like. I have had several mentors. I have gone to different workshops, and a lot of my mentors haven't just been in ABA. They have been in other disciplines. Specifically, when working with adults, you have to be able to work with other disciplines, nurses, other doctors. Education, speech, OT is definitely a big collaborative effort, especially for me, because I know the ABA side of it 100%. But then when it comes to if the individual has a seizure disorder, if they have dementia, things like that, there's other assessments that I have to be aware of. So specifically for the clients that I work with, we use one of the memory assessments and just to identify where are they at with their memory at this point. Family or the staff may report, hey, we're seeing some memory loss. Okay, well, let's do this quick assessment just to see where they are. And with that assessment, I take that score and I'm able to adjust their behavior plan based upon how we're providing those supports. So previously, was it just us giving least to most prompting, right? Now we may have to be doing over the hand for everything, right? Previously, it could have just been, oh, we'll just have different visuals around the house. No, now we need to have video models of everything in the house for the client to remember. So really thinking about the other assessments that are happening is not just ABA. It's definitely a collaborative approach because there's other medication issues that might be occurring. So things that we just have to be more aware of that may affect their independence.
Yeah. Can you name drop a little bit? Because I think it'd be good for folks to know who's out there that they can maybe go to and get support, or at least types of folks they could be looking for.
With the clients that I work with, they have their primary doctor. They have their neurologist. Depending on their mobility, they'll have occupational therapy. Some of them may have speech therapy, just depending on their level of communication. But for the staff, they do get training on sign language because some of the clients may not have a communication device. They're strictly sign language at this point. And some of them the clients have created their own sign language. So figuring out what that is and making sure everybody understands this is what that sign means. But with that, it mainly goes through their primary team and working together. So typically with that, we always have our quarterly meetings, our monthly meetings. Whenever there's a doctor's appointment, we're always following up like, hey, can we have a team meeting to discuss the interventions that we're using? We want to make sure there's alignment with the regimen that you're providing for that client. So every client, their team looks very, very different. So really just cultivating what that support looks like for that client. It could always depend on where they are, what state. In Canada, I know it's that universal health care. So getting the right referrals and connecting with the right people and making sure everyone is communicating versus just looking up their medical records to say, oh, they're seeing this person. No, there really needs to be a connection. So one of the things that I love with the team I work with is they are on top of making sure we are over communicating. Specifically with them, they have clients within their residential group home for over 30 years. And that is a testament to them really focusing on healthy aging and what that looks like. And it's not just about reinforcement or interventions we're using. We're really looking at the entire lifespan, the quality of their life across time. So that is just a testament to the teams that they have cultivated for each client.
So what are some of the things to kind of start watching out for when you've been supporting clients for 20, 30 years? Probably they came in there when they were 20 and Now they're 40, 50, 60. What are some signs that you need to start maybe changing the kind of supports you're providing?
So when individuals have been working with the client for a long time, I always try to get a fresh set of eyes in there, mainly because the response I get, oh, that's just Johnny. He
Yeah,
does that all the time. And it's just
yeah.
like, wait a minute. Well, how long has he been doing it for? So sometimes when you're working with clients for a long period of time, you may not realize that, hey, this is a new behavior. So some of the things we look for is changes in appetite, changes in how they walk or how they position their head, communication as it relates to how long they take to respond to certain things. Some of the other things I look for is their temperament. When certain things are changing weather, around the holidays, especially around like Christmas and Thanksgiving, those are the times where we tend to see most behaviors. So a lot of assessments are happening around that time. Like, hey, are we going to see a change if they don't get to visit family, or is it around the same temperament? So really looking at just some of the general things that happen, changes in appetite. And then with appetite, yes, they could be eating, but are they eating the same amount of food? Are they eating more food? And just how they communicate with how things are going with them. Sleep habits are some of the other things we look at. And then as hygiene as well. How are they doing with their hygiene? So just a variety of things that we look for. If we see any signs, we definitely follow up with their physician first, just to make sure there's nothing medical going on. We try to do that as often as possible before we say, hey, let's make adjustments to this behavior plan.
I know aging in place is something a lot of folks hope for. From what you've seen, what helps make that possible?
I think is just understanding their quality of life, understanding what their norm is, and their independence. So, for example, a friend of mine, her mom was taking care of her aunt, and they lived together in Georgia, and the mom passed away suddenly, and the aunt had to move with another relative. And within 3 or 4 weeks, the aunt passed away. Now, there were so many changes that happened. One, there's grief. Two, she moved to a completely different time zone. There was just a lot of shifts. So when we're thinking about aging in place, we want to be sure that we are not including distress. We're not removing assent or withdrawal. Like, these things have to stay in place, because when things shift, that also shifts everything else for them. And with aging, what I found is that it changes their outcome of life expectancy as well. These sudden changes and shifts from their norm. So trying to keep things, as much as the same as possible. It's just like with kids, you move into a new house, everything's going great, and all of a sudden this child is having behaviors in school. Well, there were so many shifts that happened, and no one really took the time to express what was happening. Same thing happens with adults as they're aging. These continuous shifts, the things that were the norm to them, now they're no longer the norm. So really trying to keep things the same as much as possible. The smells, the furniture, the laundry detergent, like, things have to be as much the same as much as possible, because you just never know how much of a shift that is going to be for them to realize, hey, the person that was taking care of me is no longer there. Now I have to move. So that was one of the things that, we had a conversation about with my grandparents, because they're getting older. And it was, we need to put them in like a nursing home. And I was like, whoa, this may not be a good idea with this sudden change. But with family, we were able to figure out, I have like several aunts, just to figure out, one, they were able to get a nurse to provide support in the home, but also some of them are retired. So they're able to create a schedule where everybody was taking care of them on different days of the week. So that's what's happening now, which is great, to really keep them in their environment, but having that support. So really thinking about, what does that community look like for that individual, because that community is big in order for them to be successful and have a longer life. So those are some things to consider with aging in place and what that looks like.
If you have all these supports in place, when do you need to start thinking about moving into something more institutional?
When it's no longer feasible, meaning there has been a decline and their independence is no longer there at all. And it's also having that conversation with them over and over again. Hey, we're going to start making shifts. So kind of preparing them for that before it's immediate. So I think that's something to keep in mind with making those adjustments, but also with those adjustments, like, moving furniture in the house and things like that. I remember with my grandmother, they moved a treadmill. She wasn't using it, and that turned into a spiral for 7 days. So they were like, hey, put it back. It's not harming anybody. Just leave it there, right? So I think it's because when, independence is completely no longer there and it's beginning to take a toll on caregivers, that's when it's time to say, hey, maybe it's time we need to move to something else. But also in that process, including them in that process, taking them to the different locations of where it might be, making sure there's plenty of activities for them to engage in, trying to make sure that their routine is the same as much as possible. But also with caregivers, this is not a way of an escape. You still have to visit. You still have to go see them, because with them not seeing you, that creates that shift for them. Yes, there's staff there that's going to be engaging with them and things like that. That's wonderful. But without that connection with family and things like that, being creative, let's say, you may live 2-3 hours away from them, or you may not be as mobile, right? Video chat. Right? Think about when COVID started, right? And we were still trying to figure out, how do we connect with family? Everybody was on Zoom, right? Everybody was on video doing different things, trying to connect. Really thinking about being creative. If you're not going to be there, be creative with videos, create memories for them so they feel like they're included in everything still.
What do your families maybe wish they had addressed earlier?
I would say just preparing for it. I don't think I can speak for myself. I don't think anyone prepared me for my parents aging or my grandparents aging, and how that would make me feel, and how I need to start preparing for how am I going to help take care of my parents, right? Yes, we have certain things in place, but keep in mind, like I said, my parents are in Canada. I'm in Maryland, right? So really figuring out what is that going to look like for me personally with providing that support. So I think with families, it's kind of like, hey, we have the money. That's not the issue. I don't think people are prepared for that it takes to provide that support, the flexibility that they'll need with their jobs in order to provide that support. Or, maybe their parents or relative needs to come and move with them. Do you have the living space or the quarters to prepare for that? What does that look like? So really just accommodating what the need is. So really preparing in advance for it. I feel like some families are not always prepared for what that looks like. And then even if they are, it's still a shock to them. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be this much. But also in their relationships, how does that take a toll on their relationship? So it's not just you, it's your significant other or your children. Time is being taken away from specific family time to support other relatives that need that support. So really just trying to find that balance and realizing, hey, it's not just, it's not just you, it's a family. So I think that's the challenge for people sometimes, is just really trying to figure out, I wasn't expecting it to happen so early. I knew I was going to have to take care of them at some point, but I wasn't ready with my time for that. So I think just preparing families for that. And also when working with families, creating a space to have that conversation with them. Like, how are they feeling? I feel like there are times where we're not always asking the caregiver, how are you doing? And not expecting to get a real answer, right? A lot of times, I'm good, I'm okay. No, but what if they really start expressing to you, hey, this is what I'm feeling? And it's okay, with no judgment, and being able to provide that support. So I think that is one of the main things that I've come across, is just being prepared for this. Like nothing really prepares you. You think you're prepared. And then once you're into it, it's just like, wait, I didn't think it was going to take up all of this time. Even though I have a nurse, even though I have the support, I'm still.
And knowing what you know now, what do you think about with your parents?
I think I wish I knew sooner, like this is what it was going to be. But I also feel like I'm in a place where I have the skills to provide that support and I'm able to give them that support too, even though I'm not there all the time. But when anything happens, I'm in a position where I can just get up and go and make sure my family is okay. That's not always feasible for everyone. But for me, I think it was, you know, they're getting older until you see it in person. And it's just like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't realize this is where we're at this point. Understanding, just teaching family members to have more patience when you have to repeat yourself and repeat the same things over and over and over again and not get frustrated. I remember I was sitting with my grandmother and she literally said, hey, why didn't you come to my 90th birthday party? And I was like, I was there. 5 minutes later, she's like, you don't come to see me. And I was like, I saw you 3 months ago. I was there. So then we started showing her pictures and I was like, yeah, that was me. And she was like, oh, your hair is different. And I was like, yes, it was. I was like, do you like my hair now? And she's like, it's okay. Having that conversation, right? Just the repeated conversation and being okay with it, knowing that it's going to happen over and over again.
And what are some things, you need to think about when those interactions are occurring? Because on the surface, it's, they're forgetting, you're obviously changing the way you're interacting with them. What do we know? And it's probably hard to do research on this, but what do we know about what they're thinking and what they're feeling under all of this?
Yeah, there's so much more to that. It is, I think for me, I can only go off of what I'm seeing as it relates to their behaviors.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the frustration of them not knowing what's happening and they're crying about it, or they may become aggressive, or they may just shut down and not want to respond because they don't remember. They know how to do it, but for some reason it's just not coming to them in that moment. So I think with that's the hard part of it. But then at the same time, it's like they forget within 15, 20 minutes. And it's like they're resetting all over again. So it's like it's repeated like a cycle for them at times. But even with that, it's having that patience to have that conversation with them. But even with that, just really looking at how often that's happening, the frequency of it, because you might be able to see the decline and get additional support as needed. Yes, there's medication and things like that out there to provide that support, but there might be some additional changes that are needed as it relates to the decline in their health at that time. So that's important to note with just documenting those changes and how often they're happening. I know at times with my grandmother, it's a spiral at times. Like some days it will be back to back and then some days she's good, right? So really just keeping track of how frequent that's happening to get a better idea of, okay, what additional support is needed at this time.
Family caregivers do so much. And how do you approach helping families without adding more pressure or turning them into clinicians?
Definitely checking in with them, really approaching it like they're not a client, they're human beings, right? We all have our things that we're going through. So really taking a minute or a moment just to help them just express or release whatever it is that they're feeling and provide that support for them as it relates to things that we're doing with their family members. The goal is not to bombard them with, here are 20 different things that we're going to do. No, let's focus on the one, which is the one that is the priority right now, really looking at the priority of that behavior. Similar to when we're working with kids, there's that priority of, okay, what's the most important? Which behavior do we need to target right now? So really working with families on that. We know their schedule is hectic depending on who's taking care of them, what that might be. So what is that priority of something that we need to work with, and really focusing on the safety of the client as well. So starting off there, like, hey, let's figure out what the priority is to relieve some of that stress. And then as we get that underway and we find a balance, then we can start introducing some other things or work on some of the other areas of concerns versus trying to work on, 6 or 7 different things that might be too much for the family at the time.
Emotionally, what patterns you see often in families who are navigating aging together?
I see anger, I see sadness, I see confusion. And a lot of that has to do with them not being able to have a clear conversation of what's happening. It's like, oh, they're getting older. They have dementia. And it's like, okay, how much time do they have? Well, hold on, wait a minute. There's so much more to this. There's so many things that we can be doing to support your family member. So I think it's them not having that information and kind of going through these emotions of what's next? How do I address this? And it's kind of like, fear. Like, am I preparing for a funeral? Am I preparing for, my parents or aunt, uncle, whoever it is to be living with me? Do I have to quit my job? It's like so many things are just going through their head. Like, how are we going to be able to manage all of this? So giving them the right information about what this diagnosis looks like, what aging looks like, and how support can be provided.
And where do things like grief and guilt and fear quietly shape behavior?
I think it shapes our response to things. It could be past experiences of things that they have witnessed with family members or friends. And it's just like, ooh, I don't want my parents to be treated like that or relatives to be treated like that. So I think it has to do with just some of their experiences of how they saw things as well. But I think that fear shows up with, their current lifestyle as well. Based upon how they're currently living, are they going to be able to meet the needs of that relative to provide that support?
Hmm. And what helps families kind of stay connected and not divide?
Communicating. I think that's the big thing. I know with my family, we have a family chat and we're talking about everything, even the funny things that happen. It's not just the negative things, the positive things, the telling of the stories, making sure that we're getting together as much as possible. I think that's what keeps the family together, but also it just helps the family know that, hey, we're still connected, right? Like, I can speak from my family, they try to get together as much as possible. So in Canada, they have Family Day. They don't have that in the US. So I try my best to go to Canada when they have that so I can be around family. We do our family cookouts and things like that. So I try my best to be there as much as possible just to provide that support and just do check-ins every now and again. And the thing is, it's not even the caregiver. It's that parent, that cousin that's being taken care of. They're excited to see you. It's like, hey, you took a minute out of your schedule to come and spend time with me. So they really value those moments. And that creates a new memory for them. So really thinking about how do I stay connected with the families is important. It's the little things. It could be a Zoom call. It could be a phone call, or you sending them a video of yourself or something that's happening with you. That's a great way just to stay connected, give them something to look at and create a new memory. So, trying little things as much as possible to stay connected.
Whether it be family caregivers or frontline staff, burnout's a big issue. What do you think folks need in order to show up differently?
Work-life balance, really trying to figure out what that even is and is it real? Is it possible? One of the things I do with staff and families, I use the ACT model with them, really looking at their values and how their values are not being met. So how do we make sure those values are being met? What does that look like? Especially for staff, because with that burnout, it takes a toll on them and they don't get to do the things that they really love. So how do we try to balance that out? But the same thing for families. How are your personal values being met? Now you're taking care of a family member. How do we make sure you're still being able to do these things and still be able to take care of this family member? What does that look like? What is that going to take? So as we create goals for them, we're really thinking about what's going to benefit everyone as a whole. There's no point in creating a plan that they can't implement. that's a waste of time. So really thinking about what is feasible, not just for them, but also for staff as well, just to make sure everybody is along the same lines. It's not going to be perfect, and values change. You know, the things we like change over time. So really thinking about doing check-ins, and, you know, it's not a one and done type of thing. It's like going back and checking in, like, all right, so where are we with our values? How are things going? Where do we need to make adjustments?
What does that look like in practice?
I use the matrix with them, and we go through it together, and we kind of talk about how they show up. So we talk about just them in general. So it could be the parent or the staff. So we're talking about, what do you like to do when you're not at work? Let's talk about those things. It's, oh, I like to go to wine festivals. I like to go swimming. I go all these different things. It's like, that's great. That sounds like so much fun. And here we are at work, and sometimes you just don't show up. Like, you're not present. And when I say not present, it means you're with a client, but you're not engaging, right? Yes, you're showing up, but yeah, you're collecting data, but you're not even talking to the client. They're trying to have a conversation with you. It's like you're not even there. What's missing, right? So figuring out what's missing so you're able to do your job. This is not a punitive thing. It's not a write-up. It's really supervising with compassion, right? It's not a place of, you're about to get fired, you're about to get written up. No, it's about figuring out what's best for you. Like, is this the best placement for you? If it's not, okay, let's figure it out. You want to be a bowler. Okay, let's figure out how we can make you a pro at bowling, because, hey, you working here may not be the best fit for you. I get it. With families, it looks very different. It's like, okay, you have this lifestyle. Great. But now we're adding this to it. How do we fit this all together so you're still able to do the things you love and still be able to have that family time and take care of your relative? So in the beginning, it's a shift in mindset, right? We talk about, I always use within this example, you know, how many days does it take to build a habit? They're like, yeah, 7 days, 21 days. And it's like, it may take an average of 66 days. And then their mind is completely blown. It's just like, wait, it takes that long? Absolutely. Thinking about, if you broke a bone, it doesn't heal overnight, right? It takes quite some time for that healing process to take place. So right now we're talking about build a new habit, changing the structure of your lifestyle. That's going to look very, very different, and figuring out, okay, what is this new norm look like for me? So getting them to change their thought process on what that looks like. And I give them the example for myself, like, hey, I've been in school all my life, and now I'm not. Now I got to figure out, what am I doing with my spare time? Am I picking up a journal? Am I writing a paper? What does this look like? Right? So really just shifting their mindset to understand that, hey, this is not something that's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take some time. Are we open to making these changes? And what would those changes actually look like? And then creating steps, like a task analysis of getting to what that would look like. And then doing those check-ins with them. So it's not just about, you know, the client, it's about the family as a whole. What does the whole family look like? What does this look like with the goals that we're targeting for your family member? And what does this look like for your family as well? Because, hey, you guys have to do this together. So really trying to get everybody on the same page, and doing it from that approach.
What are some examples of things staff have said as reasons why they're not showing up?
They're tired. They're tired, but I show up, but I'm tired. There's just a lot going on in my personal life. Okay. And it's like, you don't have to share it with me, but let's just meet for a little bit. Let's just take a minute to have this conversation. And I bring out the ACT. I use myself as a model for them to see how it works. And I think I just bring that human approach to it for them to understand, like, you don't have to share your business with me. I don't want to know the nitty gritty of what's happening, but I want you to be aware of your work-life balance and how you're showing up. Right? Because you may not even be aware of how you're showing up. And the way you show up does affect how you engage with clients. That is concerning. So before it even gets to you being written up or you getting fired or something like that, hey, let's meet. Let's talk about how things are with you. Let's just put everything aside. Are you okay? What does that look like to you? Right? And 99% of the time, I'm fine. I am okay. That's the common language. And in my mind, you're not. And that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. So getting people to understand that. And, we all have our wave of emotions and things like that, but also being able to build a rapport with the staff to even have that conversation and being human and being able to use examples from your life, not to give all your business or anything like that, but just to shed some light on the things I'm asking you to do. I'm doing the same things for myself in order for me to maintain balance in my life. So what would that look like for you?
So it's not so much about solving their problems as it's about having them reflect on how their life in their day-to-day work, and maybe they're not even realizing that they're kind of stuck in this rut. And this is where the whole matrix comes in, with moving away behavior towards values.
Yep. And even when that conversation, it's not me opening Pandora's box and there's no support there. It's, hey, you can talk to a counselor. It's okay. Making sure that there's resources available to them, because if they do open up, I don't want to be like, I can't help you with that. No, I want to make sure I have the resources available to provide that support. So it's not just let's have the conversation and nothing happens from there.
Let's talk a little bit about ethics. Ethically aging work kind of feels complex in a different way. What feels most important to protect when using behavior analysis with older adults?
Their independence, their ability to advocate for themselves. I use this example. There's a show called Grey's Anatomy, one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And there is a episode with Amelia. She is the neurosurgeon, and she is doing a study where the client has to get up and walk within, a couple of steps right after surgery. And the intern, Stephanie, is working with the client, and she is getting the client up and getting the client to walk to the chair. And the client is moaning and crying and trying to give her eye contact like this is too much. And Stephanie says, okay, we're going to stop here. We can try again another day. And she puts her back in the bed. And Amelia, calls her over and says, hey, what happened? Why did you do that? And Stephanie was like, it was too much for her. We can try again another day. And Amelia is like, no, it needs to happen now. This is the protocol. This is what it needs to be. If we don't do it this way, the healing process will not happen. So I use that example because I can see myself in Amelia and I can see myself in Stephanie. And when I think about the client, just any client in general, but also with the population that is aging and they're retired, there's certain things we're asking them to do. And it's like, do they really need to do it? How does this benefit healthy aging? I remember asking my students that, what age do you want to live until? And the ages they gave me were very depressing. They were like, 55, 60. And I was like, what? And I was just like, okay, that's another conversation. But I said, when I retire, I don't want to be asked to do anything. I just want to be retired and do whatever. So thinking about the clients that we're working with, when we're asking them to do certain things, do they really need to do it? Right? But also with the plans that we have in place, can it wait, or is it something that needs to be done right away? So really thinking about what the need is at that time, thinking about when the client is saying, can't do it right now, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, they're physically telling you something is not right. We need to stop. Right? So being okay with that. And I remember there was a time in my life, freshly new, BCBA, no, it has to happen. No extinction. Let's keep going. And it's just like, whoa, wait a minute. It doesn't have to be this way. So changing the thought process, number one, with staff on thinking it has to be done. It's the protocol. No, the protocol is not written that way. It clearly says if they do these things, you should stop, acknowledge how they're feeling, and reassess. It's okay. So really thinking about that from an ethics perspective is assent. There were times where it's not being acknowledged and why it should be acknowledged, especially when people are trying to advocate for themselves and now we're taking it away from them. Just like with our clients, I think there was one client that had a lot of perseveration and it was their way of coping. And they were just tracking a lot of the behaviors. And my concern was this is their ability to calm themselves down, and we're taking that away from them. So let's adjust how we think about certain things, right? So we don't want to take away their ability to advocate for themselves. Yes, there are certain things that we need to do because it's a part of healthy aging and it benefits them. But there's certain things that it really doesn't. Like, hey, so they don't want tea in the morning. Okay, they can drink something else. That's fine. No, it's not, oh, they have to have yogurt with their medicine. Does it say that in the protocol, or is that a preference? So really just getting people to understand the differences, but allowing the client to be able to communicate and express how they're feeling. So I think ethically that has changed me a lot and how I approach things, but also with training others on what that looks like from an ethical standpoint.
How else do you kind of think about consent and assent?
Acknowledging where they're at and changing how we approach that with how we're providing prompts and supports, but acknowledging if they're unable to do something and you're providing that support. So that definitely comes along with, the staff or family connecting with them and just acknowledging where they're at. We always have to communicate the changes with them just so they're aware and they know that you're aware that some changes are happening versus they don't want you to know that this is happening, and you're providing the support to the best of their ability. So for example, if they are no longer able to walk to the bathroom, it's, hey, I see you're having some trouble today. I'm going to help you so you don't hurt yourself. Okay. So you let me know when you want to get started. Do you want to put your hand on so you're giving them options throughout that process, right? They still have some control with how this looks like. Now, are you going to get pushback along the way? They may even try to fight you in the bathroom. Okay. But the point is, hey, I'm going to let you use the bathroom. I'll step out. I just need to get you there safely so you don't hurt yourself. Praising them along the way. All right, I got your arm. Thank you for giving me your arm. All right, we will move when you're ready to move. Okay. All right, you're moving. All right, I'm going to move. I'm going to move slow. Is this pace good enough for you? And you get into the bathroom. It's like, all right, so do you want me to lift you, or are you going to use support? Like, talking through that entire process before you bring an additional person in to provide that support. I think that conversation is so important versus you diving in and doing everything for them, because at that point, you're taking away their ability to be independent, right? So you want to be able to see at the same time, like, oh, what can they still do within this process, so you know how to adjust as well.
That must be hard for staff to start developing this level of patience when they didn't have to before, and I think staff often feel like they want to rush through these morning routines and these evening routines, and end their shift and go home. What's happened like?
Shifted a lot where the shift changes have changed so that there is more time for that. I think the organization was aware that, hey, it's going to take them more time to get them to where they need to be. So though that has shifted, as whereas if they're going to like a day program, there's more than one vehicle available. So if some are ready to go, they can take them, come back, take another vehicle. I think it's just accommodating those times at this point. I think staff are at the point now, I haven't noticed it with them. They're okay with the wait, or they're working additional time because they know, hey, there's a decline. But it's also that communication and letting other staff know that may just be working weekends or versus who's working in the week. Hey, we're seeing a decline. It may take, more time for them to get ready before you leave. So just prepare for that. Start, getting ready a little bit earlier to transition. So I think the communication has helped a lot with that versus people getting frustrated like, hey, this is taking really, really long.
Another concept that plays into all of this is dignity. How do you personally recognize when dignity is present And how do you help people recognize what dignity means?
It's all through just examples and how would they feel if someone didn't respect or have dignity for them? Like, what would that look like? And then bringing it back to the client as well, right? So yes, there may be times where they have soiled themselves or, now we have to change it again. It's having a compassionate approach to it versus you letting everybody know, hey, this happened again in front of the client. So really just having more of a compassionate approach to it versus this is an incident report and acknowledging or saying it in front of the client, like, hey, why would you do that again? Or this happened again. Really just using a compassionate approach to it because, hey, it happens. And, clients may hide their clothes because they don't want people to see that it happened. So really letting the client know it's like, oh, it's okay. It happened. Let's clean it up. Let me show you how you can clean it up. So putting some of that independence back on the client to say, hey, you can ask for help so you don't have to do it all the time by yourself. Right. So really just acknowledging ways to ensure that with the client as well, just to eliminate them removing that dignity from the client.
Looking at the system as a whole, what do you notice most often gets in the way of meaningful change in aging services?
I would say insurance, billing what we can and can't do as it relates to supporting the families. So being creative with that as it relates to the supports and hours that we're requesting. I think there are times where that does hinder us a little bit as it relates to the systems. Because as I mentioned, with ABA services, their focus is on 21 and younger. And there are resources out there for, individuals that's 22 and older, but the funding is not always there, right? So, making sure there's grant funding for support so that families can get this type of support that they might need. So I think the funding is an issue, 100%.
Tell me a little bit about your own company.
Yeah, so Relentless Alliance, I started that off and my focus was just to work with kids with autism. And then I grew a little bit and I just found my niche and I just love working with adults. So I do consultations with schools as well. So I still do consultations there, but my focus has mainly been doing consultations with adults and providing support with them with behavioral interventions. I am teaching and doing coaching so people can reach out for that support to train staff on how to work with individuals with disabilities as well as adults that have dementia or aging disorders and how ABA can be applied and what that looks like. Right now, I'm currently working on a project that focuses on healthy aging with adults, just increasing their mobility. What does that look like for them? So working with a occupational therapist as well as behavior and creating a program to increase mobility and what that looks like over time as they age. So those are some of the things that I am doing right now with Relentless Alliance.
Awesome. You're speaking at a conference in Tokyo in a few days.
So that was supposed to be in person, but that had to shift a little bit, had some other things going on, but I really wanted to be there in person. But I'm still able to present. They've already spoken to me about next year. They have not picked a location yet. Hopefully it's in Singapore or something.
Yeah.
That would be great. But yeah, I'll definitely be speaking about the practical functional assessment, what that looks like with adults and how to incorporate other assessments with that to provide support to individuals with disabilities. So I will be talking there about that, and I'm really excited.
That's awesome. And is that connected to your doctoral work? Is that what
Yes, it is. It is. My dissertation focus on the practical functional assessment for adults and in schools. What would that look like? Is it feasible to even do it? And it is. I got the training to do it, and I was like, I'm glad I did, because just reading the articles about it, it's not the same at all. There's definitely a lot of training that is needed in order to implement those assessments, as well as the skill-based assessments that follow it. Yeah, I'm excited that, well, I'm happy that I'm done with the dissertation, but I'm excited to see what I do moving forward with just some of the assessments that I've been doing.
That seems like a whole other conversation, and we'll
It is.
have
It is.
really interested in learning about how to kind of apply that in the adult
Mm-hmm.
context. I think
Mm-hmm.
could be some real value, but I think
Yeah.
it'd be quite the shift, because I think a lot of the examples that we see out there, and I won't digress too much because just to change the whole, we'll add another hour here. Uh, uh, I'd be surprised. I'm surprised that you've been able to get some momentum doing that with adults. So I'd love to hear more about that sometime.
Absolutely. It takes some time. I have been working on just a lot of connections and just working on buy-in to ABA and what that looks like with
Yeah,
adults. And
yeah.
I've had a great support team with doing that. So yeah, we'll be doing more research in those areas about that and what that looks like. So just to increase, the literature is out there, but to continue to add to it because it's needed. So yeah, that will be my focus with some of the research projects that I'll be doing.
Super cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
And just to kind of finish off, we're talking about how you haven't done a podcast in a while,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact you actually have your own podcast, and I'm
Do.
hoping this will motivate you to get some more episodes out. So tell me more about your podcast.
Yeah, I'm motivated now. It's been a while. So I have with two of my friends, we're called Sisters on the Mic, myself, Nikki, and Antoinette. And we've known each other since childhood. So even though they've lived in the US, I've lived in Canada, my family used to travel back and forth a lot, and we've always been connected. And our podcast is about sisterhood and just everyday things in life and how to live a better life. What does that look like? Really positive. It's not just behavioral, but just talking about everyday life and what that looks like for not just women, but for men, and the political climate and just different things like that, and how that affects us and the services that we provide. For me, I'm in the behavioral world. Antoinette is in the educational world. Nikki, does everything, but she is in real estate and, commercial management and things like that. So we talk about a variety of topics. So I'm excited to get us back up and running again.
And one more thing I'd like, this sounds awesome. We'll put some links in for folks because there's lots of episodes still to listen to. One more thing I'd like to ask about that we didn't talk about, but I see you're involved with. And I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about DMV ABBA.
Yeah. Oh, you did your research. So yes, we are a small organization within the DMV area. So I think about 20 members right now, and we do provide professional development professional development once every month. And we do have some study sessions that we have available for those that are working towards getting their BCBA. We have been doing this maybe about 3 years now, and we do have social outings. This all came about over like a group chat and a post on Facebook, and we all started getting together for brunch and, doing things out in the community. So we're like, hey, what can we do? Not everybody can make it to conferences. It might be too much for them to afford. So we created the DMV program, and we have members where we have speakers that come and share with us some of the amazing work that they're doing. And they may not necessarily get to hear them speak because they can't afford to attend, certain conferences. So we definitely have that opportunity there for everyone, anyone who wants to join. But I definitely enjoy being a part of that. And we do have some amazing speakers. So yeah, I'm glad you found that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to also, just for folks that are listening, because there's lots of organizations all over the world called something ABBA. This is ABBA with two B's. So this is the DMV Association for Black Behavior Analysts.
Correct. Correct.
And kind of how did that all get formed?
So we all majority of us met at a conference in Detroit. It was BABA, Blacks in Behavior Analysis Conference. And we just all connected there. And we were like, hey, we want to stay connected. And then we started like a WhatsApp chat where we all connected there. And then that's when we said, hey, let's create an organization. And we did that, and we still stay connected. We have events quarterly where we still meet up, where we network. It's also an opportunity for us to kind of just sit back, relax, and talk about how things are going. Some of them are business owners. Some of them work for different organizations. Some of them are still trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to stay within ABA or do something else?
Yeah.
So really just giving each other a shoulder to lean on and figuring out, what other conferences are coming up, like what sponsorships are available out there. So we really just created a network for us. We definitely try to do meetups in other states too with other groups that are happening.
Right on.
We haven't been successful yet, but we're getting there. So I know a few of us are attending the Women in Behavior Analysis Conference in Chicago.
Nice.
So we've already put it in the chat, hey, we're going to meet up when we're out there. So that should be fun. That should be fun.
I love that. And I'm just looking at your executive board here. You've got Jerron Cooper on there. We had him on the podcast a while back.
Yes.
It's really good work. And I see Dawn Simpkins. I met her, actually. And Jerron. I don't know if this was the same BABA conference. Was this in 2023 that you folks set up? Oh, yes. I did. I had an opportunity to go to that conference. And so that was awesome. I got to meet those folks. But I see that your role is parliamentarian. What does that mean? That seems a
I
title.
take notes. I take notes for the meetings. That's
Oh,
what that is.
okay.
But no, we're very, very active. We have several committees now. One of the committees that stands out is advocacy right now, where we're really focusing on supporting parents with how to advocate for their child, not just for services, but in IEP meetings. What does that look like? So really just educating people in our community about what this looks like, what services to expect. It's not for the child, but what parents should be getting out of the services as well. So we have been doing a lot with that to support that initiative. So we're really excited about that.
That's way cooler than what I thought it was going to be. I guess I was thinking you being Canadian and the whole Parliament reference. I was like, something political? Are you at that?
That would be nice. That would be nice. But no, not at all.
No,
not at all.
Cool. It's super cool. Olivia, this was awesome. It was fun learning from you, learning about all the good work you're doing. Hope to have
absolutely. I would love to be back. Thank you for having me.
This was great. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Today on Behaviour Speak, I'm joined by Dr. Olivia Hird-Partlow for our conversation about ABA across the lifespan, with a particular focus on adults with disabilities, healthy aging, dementia, autonomy, dignity, and compassionate support. Olivia brings together experience in clinical practice, residential support, university teaching, research, and consultation through Relentless Alliance. In this episode, we talk about why ABA so often remains centered on children, what's missing when adults and aging populations are left out of the conversation, and how behavior analysts can work more collaboratively with families, residential staff, medical providers, and the people receiving support. This is a powerful conversation about quality of life, consent, aging in place, caregiver stress, and what it means to support people without taking away their independence. Before we wrap up, if you enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Olivia Hird-Partlow and want to continue exploring behavior analysis, aging, adult services, and quality of life across the lifespan, I encourage you to check out a couple of related episodes from the Behaviour Speak archive. First, take a listen to episode 236, The Intersection of Aging and Behavior Analysis, featuring Jacqueline Patches and Nihal Siam. In that conversation, we explore many of the challenges and opportunities that emerge as behavior analysts supporting aging populations, including planning, quality of life, and the growing need for behavioral expertise in adult and senior services. You may also enjoy episode 20, Consulting in Group Homes Using ACT with Monica Peters. That episode examines behavior analytic consultation in residential settings and the use of the ACT matrix to support staff, systems, and the people they serve. Together with today's discussion, these episodes highlight how behavior analysis can support people well beyond childhood while promoting dignity, autonomy, meaningful engagement, and quality of life throughout adulthood. You'll find links to both episodes in the show notes and at behaviorspeak.com. Thanks for listening to Behaviour Speak. Please subscribe, share the podcast with a colleague or friend, and join us again for another conversation at the intersection of behavior, science, and the human experience.